It's funny. I used to often watch videos of people talking about non-duality or whatever, and sometimes there'd be these long silences. No, I'm beginning to understand why. Um, so Tony Parsons often used to start a meeting by saying, "All there is this. All there is this." And subsequently, there would be an hour or two of questions and answers and discussion, which went absolutely nowhere because all there is this. And somebody once asked me what this is. This, you could say, is what is when I stop happening. And I is a seeming energy of apartness. I am located in a body. I end at my fingertips. I have my own unique thoughts and feelings, my own sort of belief that I exist apart from everything and everybody else. That's the basis of duality, me and what's out there, the other, the rest. So I have my own unique thoughts and feelings, and other people have their thoughts and feelings. I have my values, their values. But not just people, but everything else apparently out there is apart from me. And that's sort of taken as real and for granted as the just the way things are. We're people, we live in bodies, and we're apart. And our job in life is to shuffle through to the end and make the best we can of it. And being apart is inherently unsatisfying. And so the apparent I, me, has to rush around trying to find the best solutions. And I is a sort of conspiracy theory. It's the ultimate conspiracy theory, I. Because it's so convincing and it holds on quite tight to its values and beliefs. And when I stops happening, there's just everything. And in everything, there can be ideas and thoughts and feelings. They're just not personal anymore. They're not owned by and managed in the same way. This, what is, when I stop happening, is rest. It's rest. It's home. It's unquestionably what it is. And it doesn't mean it's home for someone. It doesn't have any definable qualities. And to use words and metaphors generally brings that concept back into, I will then make something of that. Oh, it's like silence. It's like whatever. So it's very hard to, in a way, talk about it. It's impossible because any words are just noises. Blah 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 blah. Stream. Don't want to get too heady here. Doesn't matter, heady or not heady. Nothing matters. In a sense, you could say there's no one. There's just energy, and energy is thoughts and feelings. Also, it's the idea. Oh, maybe we'll go there for the weekend, or I need to do that now. And those ideas are just energy happening, and it can appear like, oh, he decided to go shopping or plan the weekend. It's not the case. Decisions happen. No one decides. Doesn't make sense, this. And in a sense, doesn't make sense, and in a sense, nonsense. I have a cold at the moment, that's why I'm sort of tending to cough and sniffle. So welcome, if this ever goes anywhere and anyone ever watches it. In my story, there was a kind of what they call an awakening or a satori, which was a sort of, you could say, a pause in the seeming continuity of me. So it was me, and it was, oh, look at that. There's just everything. And there was thoughts and a voice and hands moving and objects and chairs, but there wasn't any me. There wasn't a center, there wasn't a person apart. There was just everything. And that was stunning. And it took me a few years to, because then I, of course, awakening is a pause in an apparent continuity. A pause in an apparent continuity. That's very important because it's an apparent continuity. Me is apparently continuous. It takes past and builds a line called I got here because of blah blah blah. That's the continuity, and I'm going blah blah blah. So there was a pause in the apparent continuity. We'll talk about that for a while. And then the apparent me had a memory of that, because the brain, even when there is no center, the brain records stuff and brings it back, and it says, oh, I have to see so-and-so on Wednesday. The brain does its job, it remembers things. Its function is to make sure you eat enough and do the shopping, and maybe even keep yourself clean occasionally. So the brain does its job. So the brain had a memory, you could say, of that pause and seeming continuity, apparent seeming continuity, and it made a thing of it. Wow, that was amazing. That was amazing. So there's now a me with a memory of that was amazing. And of course, that then, because it's inherently unsatisfied and seeking something bigger than itself, in a way, talk about that another time, it's seeking a fulfillment, it's seeking fullness from apartness, which is the paradox that you can't ever get to, because it's the carrot in front of the donkey's nose. Oh, fullness is over there. Anyway, so I became a seeker and went looking for voices that could explain. The first one was a psychologist that I used to see occasionally, and he suggested I go to the Buddhists, and I thought that was interesting. So I went to the Buddhists. and the Buddhists lasted a week. And it was lovely, they were gorgeous, and I could see that very sincerely they were trying to, from what I could see, and I could be wrong, of course, but they were trying to create a kind of silent higher self, detached from feelings, emotions, and disturbances, observing. So, it seemed, I couldn't articulate it at the time because that's how it functions here. It takes me some time to understand the significance of something or articulate it. But intuitively there was a knowing that this was really well-intended ignorance. Another ism, Buddhism, Christianism. But like I said earlier, me is the ultimate ism. Meism is the ultimate conspiracy, and it's reinforced by a collective belonging in a world of me's, apparent me's. Ism schism, Bob Marley used to call it. But you can't end that until you end. The ism is isming, isming, ismus. It's amazing. Anyway, I became a seeker, blah blah blah. There were voices. The words were right, but somehow the energy was wrong occasionally. So there was people who seemed to talk about what was remembered, but it was still, and this is what was funny about intuition. There were beautiful speakers speaking of a process where I could get somewhere in the future by a process of meditation, inquiry, or other. And that didn't feel right intuitively because all there is this, and so there can't be a getting to, there can be the idea of a future, sure, but to make that future better than this is the split. To make that future recognizing that there is a person that can progress a process towards a better version of themselves, or freedom, or whatever you want to call it, is, you could say, where the problems start. And there are no problems, of course. That's the conundrum. All of that's just what seems to happen. Until all there is this, and it's like, no question. It's just no question that I could, because who is, I could what? Be free if I walk around the bottom of some mountain in India 64 times. Come on. I can go to heaven when I die if I, say this prayer and go to this ritual and confess my sins, and constantly strive to be deserving of the love of the higher power. So if you want, you can say this is a conspiracy theory to end all conspiracy theories, because there's no one to conspire. And then there's just apparent conspiracy theories. And they just what they are. There would be no judgment or sense that there was anything wrong with somebody believing that they, we're going to reincarnate as a dolphin. That's just a belief based on a misunderstanding that there's someone who can reincarnate, or that there's someone. And there's just energy, thoughts and feelings. There's no one apart. And that's really, really radical. It's radical, ungraspable, makes no sense, and it's the most wonderful. In a sense, it's a revelation, but for no one. And all the great theories and understandings and deep insights just fall away into sort of, they just fall away because you could study, philosophy or something and be the most articulate and most was it Thomas Aquinas, who I think was he was a Christian theologian. I think still a lot of Catholicism is based on his, and he was the super brain guy. And I think he was saying mass one day. The reason I remember this story was because I picked up a book that my dad had. My dad had obviously been a bit of a seeker, and he had some books on philosophy and theology. And I picked up this book by my dad had, and it was Thomas Aquinas. And I read the introduction, and the introduction was that Thomas Aquinas was saying mass one day, mass, all that, probably in Latin, in a very nice frock. And then he had a revelation. And he came back to his scribe or assistant, and he said, "Everything I have written is but straw." In other words, it's all meaningless bullshit. The whole, he says, now this is an introduction by some guy, maybe didn't have, but I liked it, because in a sense, it was like all that stuff, all that, I think something funny happening on the old phone there, it doesn't matter, anyway, whatever. All that stuff, the theory, the insights, the theology, the belief, the hierarchy, the whole thing just collapsed. And he said, it's but straw, in other words, meaningless. So probably, I'm guessing, there's a guy and he's there and he's speaking Latin and raising his hands up and down and ringing bells and there's incense and the whole thing, and suddenly there's just hands moving and incense and bells ringing and a voice speaking and all the lights and the colours, and it's the lights and the colours and the voice speaking, and it's of no significance, and it's just beautiful. It's what is. It doesn't have anywhere to go. It doesn't have anyone that could go anywhere. And the little thing on the phone here says coming up for 20 minutes, and that's a lot of 20 minutes of theory that means nothing, has no significance. It's just energy. And I think I have to go and do some shopping now, a bit of housekeeping, make a soup, chicken soup, as it happens. Yeah.